It's Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey Verse Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, folks, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is me, Fernando Uribe. Once again, happy Monday here as we're joined us, of course. And folks, I can't say enough about what a privilege it is to come to you every single Monday night. And I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so on this, the 16th of March here in 2026. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube button there, of course, if you're watching live on YouTube. And of course, if you check us out on SoundCloud or Spotify, you can download our content and listen to it anywhere at any time, whether you're doing grocery shopping, last minute St. Patty's Day decorations you got to go buy, whatever it is you're doing, folks. I'm pretty sure you have your smartphone or your tablet or any other device with you. Take Jersey First with you anywhere at any time. And folks, I can't say enough really about here, front and center, leading the way with Jersey First TV, of course, always educating and advocating for the residents here in our great state of New Jersey. Brand new episodes of Real Talk air every Monday night live. Of course, check your local listings for start times, and I appreciate you again making this a part of your Monday night viewing. This, late Monday afternoon with some rain in the forecast, obviously. So if you're indoors, staying dry, we appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing. As I just alluded to, folks, happy Monday, and more importantly, happy 316 Day. And for all you pro wrestling fans and devoted fanatics of Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know why 316 Day is so important. It was the birth of the Austin era. But on a serious note, happy 316 Day on this, the 16th of March in 2026. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? I'm going to have a lot to say really about what's going on in New Jersey politics and media and activism. Of course, it usually has to do with the same clowns I always like to, kind of roast every week here on the broadcast, whether it's in establishment media, academia, activism, government officials. You know it, folks. No one is immune from my fire. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, some new people I can add to the collage over the weekend. Certainly, we saw the closing of Christ Hospital. But of course, folks, leave it to Democratic Socialists to make it about them and not about the cause. And when we talk about, Come Mierdas, we talk about Isaac Jimenez here in Hudson County. We'll talk more about this little delicadito in just a few moments. And folks, when we talk about, Come Mierdas in Hudson County, I mean, let's be fair. We talk about these grown children making asses of themselves when it's a serious matter and it's a serious problem going on. No, they have to make it about them. But what do you expect from progressives, folks, on the left? It has to be about them because they're always attention seeking. So, when we think about one Come Mierda, let's go to the other. And of course, David Cruz. And folks, again, no disappointment here. And of course, you would think Uncle Dave would cover this in a more intellectually honest capacity. Folks, intellectual honesty isn't Uncle Dave's strong suit, but we'll talk more about that. Maybe he was too busy sitting at home crying about Team Puerto Rico coming up short once again in the World Baseball Classic. What else is new with Team Puerto Rico? Maybe he's too busy crying about that over the weekend, and covering other news in the community. But folks, you definitely want to stick around for final thoughts. Also, a special comment about my good friend Carlos Medina, who's now today effectively resigning as the president and chairman the CEO of the Statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We'll tell you why this is big news, and not just the business community, but even in New Jersey politics. So you definitely want to stick around for a special comment. And of course, folks, a shout out yesterday up here in Hudson County, a great caravan, obviously advocating for a free Cuba. We're seeing it in real time. I'll tell you why this caravan is so important about the ones coming up in the next few weeks, why you should make it a point to attend and show your solidarity and support for Cuban Americans everywhere. That's right, folks. It is Monday here on the broadcast. And again, we'll talk about all of this and more later in the show. Folks, it is election season here in New Jersey. Actually, it always is election season, whether it's a presidential election in 2024, a gubernatorial election in 2025, and of course, here in 2026, we have a U.S. Senate race. We have county commissioner races at a local level. And of course, all 12 congressional districts are up for grabs coming up this November. And you know what? When we talk about the state of election 2026 in New Jersey, why not talk to a woman who is energizing the Republican Party all throughout the state, folks? And I'll tell you, it's my privilege to talk to her. She's the new chair of the New Jersey Republican Party, folks. She is the distinguished Christine Hanlon, joins us live on Real Talk. Madam Chair, welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Appreciate that. And Madam Chair, again, it's great to have you on the broadcast. And I got to tell you, I mean, you wear many hats, and some might wonder, as obviously they saw the advertisement today, and they were like, "Wow, good. I'm glad you're talking to Christine. You know, let her have it." And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to let her have it about. I mean, listen, I want to have a conversation.
It just became the chair.
So. Yeah, I know. It's like the ink isn't even dry on the nameplate, for God's sake. People already are so, just so emotional. But again, Madam Chair, as you know, I'm one of the few outspoken, dedicated conservatives and Republicans here in New Jersey, especially in independent media. And I just have to say that again. I mean, my feelings haven't changed about being a conservative. I still look at, a recent Reagan Day brunch that I was invited to speak at. I look back fondly on the 40th president, Ronald Reagan. I look back at the 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. I'm a dedicated conservative and Republican, but some might say around New Jersey, it's kind of tough being a Republican these days, especially after a great 2024, but then a very disappointing 2025. You're the new chair. Tell us why it's more on the upside in 2026 about being a Republican in the Garden State.
Well, it is time to build. And I have to say, it's a pleasure to be with you. I just want to note that I did go to a Team Puerto Rico baseball game just about 2 weeks ago in spring training.
Nice,
it was such a fun time. I was down in Florida, and it was so much fun to be there, and very spirited, and had a really good time. So I heard you mention that before. You know what? In politics, there are always cycles. Things come around. Sometimes you have good years, sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, we didn't have a good year in 2025. But as Republicans, we just need to, stand up and work harder and dig in and move forward. You can't be looking backward all the time. You do have to look back and say, what happened, and how do we learn from what happened? But very importantly, you have to come together. You have to try and unify, and you have to be able to really just go forward in a positive and strong way. And that's what we've been working on. Getting our messaging, working on our socials, being really active with email, social media. We just had an amazing event where we had 450 people in the room celebrating America's birthday. So it's like trying to build, energize people, because people were so upset about what happened last year.
Well,
really,
sorry. No, I'm sorry. I just want to sort of add this as well. I mean, obviously, I saw the pictures and videos. Great turnout. Again, congratulations to you, certainly, and your vice chair on a great turnout. Obviously, being sold out says a lot about the fact that, listen, it's not a doomsday scenario here in New Jersey to be a Republican. There's a lot of room for optimism, as you just alluded to. And I think that it also lends itself to the brand new energy that you bring as chair, where let's be honest, many people might be like, well, I don't know. And, especially navigating these waters. I mean, many, many moons ago, I was a county chair for my local young Republican club here. And obviously I sat on the statewide board. I've been, talking to Republican officials for years, and even now in my capacity as an independent journalist. But, it's got to be tough, honestly, with so many fickle people in New Jersey, especially, it's 21 counties. It's 21 county chairs, 21 personalities, Madam Chair. I mean, honestly, I got to give you credit here. Navigating these waters can be tough with these sharks.
Yes, that's like an understatement. No, I'm just kidding. It's just politics. This is how politics is. I've been in politics long enough to know that not everyone's going to love me. I'm trying to gather, all the support and try to bring as many people together as possible, and really help people understand that, if we keep fighting each other, we're not going to be winning. We have to come together to win. But most importantly, we have to be doing things that help us win. It's not just, making comments on social media, negative, being against Republicans, whether it's social media or, stories, whatever. Like, we need to come together and find the common ground, but actually do things like register voters, work on getting people, our low propensity Republicans, on the mail-in ballot list, work on talking to people in our communities to help them understand that, we're not a one size fits all. We have a big tent. We can connect with people in various ways. And I'm a big believer in just rolling up sleeves and getting work done. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. We've already launched a voter registration initiative. It's called Strive for 25, where every single Republican can work on registering 25 Republicans for America's 250th birthday. Really like action items, putting things together, giving our chairs in the counties resources to work with to accomplish that goal. So I'm the type of person that's kind of like an action item person, like, let's get this done. And these are things that I've done in my career, both at work and as, a co-chair of the Republican Party in Monmouth. We just don't take anything for granted. Like, you have to roll up your sleeves and work on these things.
Madam Chair, again, folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it's 10 after 5 here on the East Coast, and my guest tonight is the distinguished chairwoman of the New Jersey Republican Party, the Honorable Christine Hanlon, joins us live here on the show. Folks, drop a comment there or a comment in the comment section, and of course, it takes 5 seconds to help the show grow. Like, comment, and share. It really helps show your support for fearless, independent media here in New Jersey. Now, Madam Chair, I really don't want to relitigate this because I've talked about it incessantly, obviously, at the end of last November, with New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein, other journalists like Brent Johnson, certainly looking back on what we could learn about from 2025. And again, I cover that race really, really at depth. Obviously I was going to all the primary debates. I was covering it on my show, doing post games, and I felt really good coming out of Labor Day. I mean, I think that's when most New Jerseyans start paying attention to politics anyway. Obviously, kids are back in school, kids are back on campus, family vacations are over. New Jerseyans kind of get back into that groove about paying attention. And I felt very good. I felt the wind was to our back. Economic conditions in New Jersey just suck. I mean, it's the most expensive property taxes in the country. It's not even close, at an average of like almost $10,000. I mean, we're like $4,000 ahead of like the next state in the country. It's crazy. The gas tax was going to go up again. Tolls of the turnpike going up again. And I kept telling people, even independents who weren't sure, after 8 years of the Emperor, Phil Murphy, I said, again, stop with the TDS. You can't blame Republicans in Trenton because they've had nothing to do with why the state's unaffordable. And I think that's what I thought was going to get, Chitterelli over the finish line. And then, of course, life got in the way. The optics of the shutdown, and Democrats knew how to weaponize SNAP benefits and everything else. And it turned into, what I thought was going to be a close race into what was not a close race. And now in 2026, we saw the Empress last week in a budget address. And I got to be honest with you, the funniest visual was Craig Coughlin and Nick Scutari behind her staring at each other when she was making some comments and taking jabs at the Democrat establishment. I'm thinking to myself, Nick and Craig.
Yes. The only name mentioned was Trump, but there was blame laid to, the Democrat establishment in Trenton, the former governor, but she didn't mention the name. She only just wanted to say Trump, several times to kind of, take everybody's eyes off the ball. So yeah, I saw those faces. I was there. And you know what? She proposed what she called an affordability budget, even though it's a record breaking, I think 67 or almost $68 billion budget.
I believe it's up to 70 billion. I could be wrong. So I mean, at the end of the Emperor's 8 years, we were saddled with a $55 billion budget last summer after all the pork and everything. And now it seems like
for that.
It's like, wait a minute. So did Donald Trump raise the gas tax? Did Donald Trump have anything to do with the school funding formula? Like, does Donald Trump have anything to do with it? For over a quarter century, Democrats have run Trenton into the ground. So listen, Thomas Jefferson once said, Madam Chair, you get the government, you elect the government you deserve. And for everybody at home, the layman's term, you get what you vote for.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people are not, don't kind of read the fine print, in terms of, because so many people after they vote, then, you'll see them and they say, wait, why are our taxes so high? And how did we get to where we are? You know, um, we just have to keep pointing out the issues as Republicans, grow our base, and work on the structural issues, I think, going forward, and really spread the word on why we why we are where we are today in New Jersey. Um, we shall see. The budget was addressed was interesting in that it was called an affordability budget, but it's $3 billion, I think, more than last year. I think, people try to use these words to fool people, but I don't think New Jersey residents are stupid. They know that $3 billion more than last year doesn't equal affordability. And a record-breaking budget doesn't equal affordability also, because that money has to come from somewhere. So the governor is proposing to cut back the Stay New Jersey program. So our seniors are going to have a more difficult time. The proposal also is to do away with certain business tax benefits to make it more expensive in New Jersey to run a business. So all these things are going to be felt by residents. And, we'll see over the coming days, like, we really need to point this out to people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get into 2026 races, let me ask you this, Madam Chair, because it seems that whether it is on social media or different county Republican events, there are narratives out there that, based on what happened last year, and certainly in 2021, when candidate Chitterelli distanced himself from the 45th president, he came within 3 points of defeating the emperor, Phil Murphy. And then obviously in 2025, it seemed like more of an embrace of the 47th president. And certainly, in 2024, when it seemed like Democrats were kind of asleep and not enthusiastic, and why would they be? You had sleepy Joe Biden, you had the word salad queen, Kamala Harris. And again, Donald Trump came within almost 5 points of winning New Jersey's 14 electoral votes. I mean, for the first time since 1988 under George H.W. Bush. It seemed like Democrats were more energized last year for different reasons, but moving forward, there's a lot of narratives out there. And as chair, I'm really curious about, how do you juggle people like, for example, State Senator John Bramnick, who's not someone that maybe is as conservative as some in the MAGA movement, maybe he's more of a moderate. You've had radio host Bill Spadia mouth off about the lack of success last year. You're seeing former Governor Chris Christie kind of trying to re-enter New Jersey politics. And there seems to be this narrative of like, well, where do Republicans want to go from here? What type of Republican do we want to push moving forward? And it seems like there's that conflict there. How do you feel as chair when you have to sort of navigate these waters? And it seems like maybe people are pulling you in different directions with very different type of Republicans.
Well, I think it's just politics. You see these kinds of things all over the country. It's not just New Jersey. If you follow politics, in every state of the union, which I do because I live and breathe, politics, these things happen. You have races where, a Republican incumbent who was pretty conservative is being primaried by another conservative. And you just have all of these issues. And I think that, it's just normal for people to be going out and giving their opinions. We're living in that kind of world where everybody wants to be out there on social media giving their opinion. And, we just have to try to come together as best we can. New Jersey Republicans and New Jersey, it's not a one size fits all proposition. We have places like Sussex County that are very, very different from Hudson County, or Ocean County that's very, very different from Essex County. So you have to be able to understand that people have differences of opinions and kind of look at the election that is in front of you, where, we've kind of had a lull from the gubernatorial election for a couple of months. And now we will start getting into the congressional and the U.S. Senate races. And really the focus will turn to those candidates and those people, and we really need to support them as best we can. I just think it's just the nature of politics. You're going to have different opinions, and it's a free country. People are going to say what they're going to say. But I think when you start to build a structure, you try to bring people together as best you can, and you focus on trying to win elections. It's just, you just have to dig down and focus. You keep your eye on the ball. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Well said there, for sure. Let's get into some of these races, and certainly the Empress's former congressional district has a special election coming up next month between local Randolph Mayor Joe Hathaway, who, folks, by the way, who'll be on the show in just a few weeks, so mark it on your calendars, against progressive activist Uribe Mejia, who obviously is renowned for her time working for the New Jersey Working Families Party, advocating for economic illiterates like Bernie Sanders. It seems like, during the primary campaign as a progressive, supposedly a populist, now she's trying to come back towards the middle. She's not fooling anybody. And I got to tell you, in CD11, I know that, it includes towns like the People's Republic of Montclair and some other really blue, progressive, woke municipalities. But I got to tell you, to use a sports analogy here, I don't even think it's a puncher's chance. I give Joe Hathaway a very good opportunity here to resonate with voters, even during a special election, where he comes across as a family man, a mayor, understands finances, budgets, economics, folks. That's important. I think Joe Hathaway could really surprise some people in CD11 in that special election. Even let's say he doesn't, succeed, I feel he could still, because then by then, and only he will have a voting record in Washington. Joe can have like 2 bites at the apple this year if necessary.
Right. Joe is going to run regardless of what happens in the special election. Joe is a terrific candidate. I mean, he checks all the boxes: competent, young family, elected official, so much knowledge. And he really is a phenomenal candidate going into this election. It's a special election, so you never know what can happen. But Joe's team and the state party, we're assisting where we can, and trying to get people knowledgeable about the election day and getting engaged in this very important race. Because I think even the Democrats were shocked about who won the Democratic primary. And I don't know if they're too happy about that, because it really pulls the party in New Jersey to the left. And I really don't think New Jersey Democrats are so far left, generally speaking. So I really think Joe has a great chance, and we're just working with him and very hopeful, trying to get a good result on the CD11 special election.
Certainly. Listen, I like his chances. I mean, some people might say, oh, it's a puncher's. No, I don't think it's a puncher's chance. I think it's a real legitimate shot here. I mean, again, Uribe Mejia can't run from her progressive history. She can't run from some really far left policy prescriptions that in that district, again, I get it, Mikey Sherrill, won a few terms there, but again, we just saw it in Montclair during a recent, referendum where they were opposed to a tax hike. Obviously, there's been a lot of mismanagement there with our local Board of Education, but even Montclair residents, I mean, God forbid, even they were against the tax hike. So who would have thought it? So we'll see. Obviously, CD11, a race to watch out for. Another interesting race, though, Madam Chair, that I'm looking at right now, obviously also is, I believe, CD9. That's with Nellie Poe, who I think has been one of the more useless members of the House of Representatives. I get it. Listen, I'm Hispanic and all, but I don't like subscribing to this identity politics where, well, let's just get a Latina in there. Okay, but what has Nellie Poe done? She's voted, during the Biden administration, voted with every tax hike, is very woke. It really is just sort of denouncing like other far left progressives about abolishing ICE. I hate to break it to people. It's under, it's under the Department of Homeland Security. That's an executive branch department. Congress has to revise what they don't like about ICE under the Department of Homeland Security Act. And it's crazy to me where she just seems to be one of those kids, like that reminds me in high school. Like, whatever the cool kids are doing at lunchtime, I'm going to go along in the cafeteria. Right. And it just seems like in CD9, you have some really good candidates out there.
Yes.
One that comes to mind, obviously, Tiffany Burris, attorney, married to Super Bowl champion Plaxico Burris. Obviously, we have others. How are you seeing the Republican energy in CD9 right now, Madam Chair?
There is a tremendous amount of energy, I think, nationally as well as in the state relating to CD9. Partly because, you know, Nellie Poe did not do so well in 2024 in that district. So it is really looked at as a potential Republican pickup in that district this year. So there really is a lot of attention and focus on this district because, you know, we could pick up a seat there.
It's certainly a very interesting race for sure. And again, another district that back in 2024, the eventual 47th president did really, really well. And even in 2025, still again, there's a good conservative outpouring in that district. It's very family oriented, very community based. And I would argue that again, Nellie Poe doesn't have a great record to run on. I mean, just staying out there with the other riffraffs and saying abolish ICE, F ICE, defund DHS. I mean, that isn't enough. That still isn't addressing the fact that in New Jersey, Madam Chair, the big beautiful bill could benefit seniors with Social Security benefits not being taxed. It could benefit people that work in nightlife and hospitality with no tax on tips and overtime. But it seems like Nellie Poe and a lot of the far left progressives in New Jersey in the congressional delegation are more obsessed with the 47th president than actually coming up with solutions. And I think that too could work in a Republican's favor in CD9.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that, the Democrats voted against the big, beautiful bill, this is real economic relief for people in New Jersey, especially with the restoration of the SALT deduction for so many New Jersey residents, and all of the other aspects that will end up with, bigger paychecks for New Jersey residents. That can be a very big issue in that district, and so we're hopeful there, and we're working hard there.
Definitely. Let's move a little south into CD6. I had Hillary Herzog on a few weeks ago on the show. I had the privilege of meeting up with her at the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club at their Reagan brunch, and she gave a very uplifting speech as someone who comes from a military family, military background. I mean, you look at sleepy, Frank Pallone down there in CD12, who, I mean, could this guy take more corporate money than, any Democrat that I can remember? But it seems like Hillary's another one who is raising money, really has a good energy, around her. How do you see her chances in CD6? And what are you hearing on the ground, Madam Chair, about Hillary and, quite frankly, I think the energy that she's bringing to this race?
Yeah, Hillary is, she's in Monmouth. So she is part of Monmouth. So I know her well. She was just endorsed by the Monmouth Republican organization. She has the backing of the Middlesex organization, and she seems to be working really hard for the district. Now, it is a district that was gerrymandered to be a very, very Democratic district. But under the right circumstances, with the right candidate, you just got to work hard, and we're hoping for a good result there. But, with gerrymandering, it made the district a little bit harder than it used to be after the redistricting. But she seems to know what she's doing. She's got a lot of energy, great story to tell, and we're very supportive of her.
Staying in that area there, it's kind of weird, right? Because it's north, South Jersey. I'm not sure if there's a Central Jersey, Madam Chair. There's always that debate, right? Like I went undergrad in New Brunswick at Rutgers, and people say, "Oh, you lived in Central Jersey." Well, yeah, okay. I mean, that's
right. Well, I always thought Monmouth was part of Central New Jersey, but then the governor, not the current governor, Governor Murphy, came out with some designation that had to do, I think, with tourism dollars that took Monmouth out of Central New Jersey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And put us in South Jersey. So who knows? I'm just still going to say that Monmouth is part of Central Jersey. But which race were you talking about?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to mention, just staying in that area there, move a little bit more. I'm not sure south or north of it, but CD12, another interesting district. Obviously, thank the Lord that Bonnie Watson Coleman retiring. Thank the Lord. I mean, another useless member of Congress for decades, and obviously with no county lines for both Republicans and Democrats, Madam Chair. Certainly a lot going on in that district on the opposing side. But I had a chance to interview Greg Mealy a few weeks ago on this program too. Had a chance to see him in person at, again, the Middlesex County Republican Women's Reagan Day brunch. Great candidate in CD12. Again, another tough district, right? Especially after being gerrymandered. What are you hearing on the ground about CD12? And quite frankly, even with far left progressives trying to take over that county, how do you see Republicans making inroads there?
Well, I think there's a primary there, so I want to be careful about speaking about certain candidates. But, right now we're focused on ballot access. This is always a challenge. Petitions are due next week, and we have to make sure that everybody is on the ballot. It's very important. And then, we just dig in and start looking at the numbers there. It is a Democrat district, as you said. It's kind of gerrymandered to be a little difficult for Republicans. But we're going to take every race seriously and work hard because it's that important in New Jersey to do so.
Absolutely. And now moving to the U.S. Senate race. And again, I cannot think in my adult life, Madam Chair, of a more embarrassing U.S. Senator that I can recall that really makes it about him consistently than Cory Booker. And no, listen, Cory, you're not fooling anybody getting married. You're not fooling anybody as far as I'm concerned. You have been pretty ineffective as a United States Senator. I can't think of one bill he's ever introduced, Madam Chair. Maybe he had a post office renamed after somebody. I don't know. But I can't think of anything meaningful that he's done. Even the theatrics of that ridiculous filibuster, it just seems like this is a really good chance for Republicans in 2026. And I might date myself here. I wasn't even born the last time a Republican held the U.S. Senate seat or got elected to it, in New Jersey. How do you see this list of candidates right now? It's a very diverse field. So as you mentioned, petitions are in next week. How do you see this field of Republicans that are looking to challenge Cory Booker for that Senate seat?
We do have several candidates vying for the nomination. As you said, it's been a very long time since we, as Republicans, have had a U.S. Senator who is a Republican in New Jersey. But we have some really interesting candidates this year, and candidates who will be very strong in this race. And so I'm really excited about our candidates. It remains to be seen. Ballot access is really important. And I don't want to favor one candidate over the other because, there's various candidates who are vying for this position. They are working hard to collect their petition signatures. But I think no matter which one of them ends up winning, getting on the ballot, winning the primary election, we're going in strong in terms of the U.S. Senate race. And that will help all of the candidates on the ballot this year.
Madam Chair, I'm curious because obviously in New Jersey, there's always an election. There's never an off season for sports fans with that analogy. There's never an off period. Certainly, 2026 will come and go. We'll see people at the league in November. We'll see what the results are. And then in 2027, boom, we have all the legislative seats up for grabs, all 80 assembly seats, all 40 state Senate seats. And listen, there are parts of New Jersey that are as blue as Windex. Case in point, where I live in Hudson County, it's just blue as Windex. So it's, it's very tough. But there are a lot of winnable districts throughout New Jersey going into next year. And again, we have to see what happens with the budget, with the Empress. We're going to see what Nick Scutari and Craig Coughlin are willing to concede to Governor Sherrill in the next few months, obviously leading into June 29th. Again, folks, just a little bit of a civics lesson here. Under New Jersey state law, the budget has to be signed. So it has to be ratified by both chambers of the legislature and signed by the governor no later than 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. Otherwise, we'll have a state shutdown. We've had a couple in recent years, obviously decades, if anything. How are you seeing right now in New Jersey, though, Madam Chair, where it comes to, again, you would figure the budget's going to have a big deal to do with that, right? The talking points moving forward for Republicans. How do you see outreach? I know you mentioned about ballot access, but what are the other big issues you think that you're going to have to be facing as chair? Is it outreach with different communities? Is it just messaging? Where do you see the other big challenges for you coming up?
Well, it's all of the above and then some. I think one of the things that I want to focus on is like structural issues. We're really behind in voter registration. There are 1.6 million Republicans in New Jersey, which is, that's a huge number, but we are very much outnumbered by the Democrats. It's over 800,000. So structural issues are really important that we need to work on: voter registration, party affiliation. Working on the mail-in ballot situation in New Jersey is of utmost importance also. We go into elections and it's gotten worse and worse every single year, where there is sort of like a firewall before election day in terms of the number of votes. And in many districts, this happens. And, it gets harder to turn out our Republicans on election day. So we have to be educating our voters that, early voting is okay. We have to get the votes in the bank. And this is like a messaging issue and an education issue that we need to be focused on statewide in order to get our numbers up going into election day, because something could always happen on election day, or people don't, they get busy with something and they don't show up at the polls. So we need to work on getting our Republicans voting earlier in many ways. So these structural things are a focus. But as you said, messaging is an issue, but that's really going to depend on the different areas. Local issues sometimes are much more important than sort of the overarching message. And each year is different. This year is congressional year, and then you have your county and local races. Next year will be, a lot more of a state messaging. So, we have to focus on all of these things. So we have our work cut out for us, but working, day and night, have some great team members. I'm working with all the county chairs. We're doing trainings because I think that's really important too. Trainings for our candidates, candidate recruitment. There's just multifaceted, the things that we have to work on.
Sure. Madam Chair, let me ask you this, because I know that as a conservative and as a registered Republican, here in New Jersey, the way the party's been covered for years by establishment media. And listen, again, I'm not shy when I say this. I mean, it's been a self-inflicted wound by the establishment media, because the reason it's dying is they've been perpetually dishonest for years. And obviously, there's a reason why independent media continues to grow in this state. Having said that, again, you've only been chair for a very short time going into this year. But what's been the feedback you're getting, or at least when you're talking to other journalists in the state, where, let's be honest, they're not going to be as encouraging or as friendly or as willing to have a dialogue? I mean, again, a lot of the establishment media in New Jersey is very left-leaning, seem to subscribe to the same nonsense about identity politics, the same bullshit about coddling illegals here, the way we do in Trenton. So far, I mean, how would you sort of rate the way establishment media has been covering you in your short time as chair?
Truly, I have no complaints about that.
Okay.
Because I've developed relationships with a lot of our media, and we don't have our New Jersey TV except for News 12, really, like broadcast.
Sure.
We have New York and Philly, but in terms of our, political and other types of media, I have to say people have been generally fair. I've developed relationships with a lot of reporters over the years. And so far it's been pretty fair. And they are willing to listen to my critique if I feel like someone is not being particularly fair. So far with me personally, it has been fair. We'll see as we go forward. Generally, I feel like Republicans aren't aren't covered, or there's sort of a little bit of a negative spin to it oftentimes, or certain things that are covered are different. But so far, just my experience has been okay, and we'll see how it goes from here.
Well, certainly your experience working in Monmouth County, right? You've been the Monmouth County clerk, or do you still occupy that position? as
Yes, I
well?
do.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I do.
all right. So for our audience that maybe isn't familiar with the duties of a county clerk, take us through maybe not so much a day to day, but maybe some of the I would argue the important dynamics that a county clerk engages in along with their staff, and also maybe some of the challenges that a county clerk also has to encounter.
So, there's 21 county clerks in New Jersey, and some of them are a little bit different. And one of the things I love about my position in Monmouth is that I have larger duties than most of the other county clerks in the state of New Jersey. So I love it because it's something different every day. Most county clerks handle the recording of property records, which is very, very important to our country, to our state. And that's a big part of the job. I would say that, most of my staff, I have about 70 employees, most of them work in that function. County clerks also issue mail-in ballots and handle a percentage of the election process. So that's part of the duties. In Monmouth, though, I have additional responsibilities that include I kind of handle all of the digital records management for the county. And I oversee the county archive that has millions of historical records from Monmouth County that date back to, the 1600s. I'm also the co-chair of the Monmouth NJ 250 committee, which is the official celebration committee for America's 250th birthday. And I've been really working on that for 3 years now. So I have a lot of extra duties in Monmouth that are just wonderful, that I love doing. I have a great team. Most of the county clerks handle parts of those types of things.
That's amazing. That's amazing work here, folks. It's 5:40 here on the East Coast. We're about to wrap up shortly with the distinguished chairwoman of the New Jersey Republican Party, the Honorable Christine Hanlon, here on the program. Madam Chair, we've gotten to know you, the county clerk, the new chair of the New Jersey Republican Party, but a quick lightning round to just get to know Christine Hanlon, the gal, the Jersey girl. All right, so quick little lightning round here with the chair. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. It takes 5 seconds to show your support for fearless independent media here, courtesy of Jersey First TV. All right, Madam Chair, let's go here. Favorite NFL team?
Giants, even though they're not doing so well.
Okay. Favorite New York Giant growing up?
Oh, growing up. Okay, I can't answer that one.
Okay. Favorite baseball team, MLB team?
Yankees.
All right, diehard Yankee fan here as
I'm a
well.
Bronx girl, so
Okay.
yeah.
Favorite Yankee all time?
Let's see. Jeter, probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
listen, number 2, always a good one to go with, obviously. Big Yankee fan here, big Cowboy fan here, Madam Chair. I always like going to MetLife Stadium, even though it looks like a penitentiary. It always feels like a home game for us Cowboy fans here against the Giants. We'll see. The Eagles have obviously they're declining, which is a good thing. When any Philadelphia sports team declines, I think it's a good thing for America. But it seems like the Giants and Cowboys might be fighting it out for the division this year. We'll see. Favorite hockey team, if any?
I'm going to say the Devils.
Okay.
I don't watch hockey that much, but I grew up with the Rangers as, a New Yorker many years ago. But, I'm going to say the Devils.
Okay. Favorite college basketball team?
Well, my daughter's at Villanova, so I think I have to say that one.
Okay. All right. Listen, Wildcats are always they've been that institution.
They need to work a little more.
Listen, they've been that institution of consistency for decades down there in Villanova. So
they're rebuilding. They got to rebuild.
Yeah, good stuff there. Now, I might get you in trouble with this one, but favorite cuisine and restaurant in Monmouth County?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I might get in trouble here, but one of my favorite places to go is 618.
Okay,
It
great
is
spot.
just a great vibe there. I love going there. Angelica's is amazing too in Seabright, but it's really hard to get in. Um, I'm Italian,
Okay.
so I I'm very partial to good Italian food. I'm very picky about Italian food.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you a funny joke about Italian food. I love Italian food myself. Give me a nice lobster ravioli in vodka sauce, and I'll rob a bank for you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the level of dedication I have here. So a funny dynamic and running joke in my family is that love my parents to death. Every Christmas, I get them a gift card because guess what? You know, going to Olive Garden is good Italian food. And
I can't listen to
I
this.
know, and you don't know the
I'm
argument. No,
holding my
and you don't know the arguments and the blasphemy on my face where I'm like, this is blasphemous. Like I live in Hudson County. Okay. I mean, there is no shortage of great Italian restaurants here in Hudson County, whether it's in Hoboken,
yeah.
Jersey City, you name it. There is a plethora of great Italian restaurants. But let me tell you, every December, when it comes time to shop for
You
mom
gotta
and
get
dad for
that.
Christmas, they're very simple. Mom and dad are like, you know what? It's you don't even have to try. $100 gift card to Olive Garden. Your dad and
It's
I,
easy.
we're good.
It's so
And
funny.
Madam Chair, it drives me bananas. I'm like, are you kidding me here? I get it. The bread is great, the soup and salad, but
Oh, I
my
hear.
God.
Yes. There are a lot of people who love our Olive Garden. I have never been there myself.
Really good for you.
But you know what? I cook a lot. So I I like my own food that I cook. So if
There
I'm
you
going
go.
out, it
Th-
has to be a really good
th-
place.
There you go. You're a mom. Any fandom when it comes to Marvel movies or DC movies?
Marvel movies.
Okay. Favorite Marvel character?
I know. Is Superman Marvel?
No, that's DC. Batman, Superman,
Oh,
Wonder Woman, that's DC.
yeah. I love the Batman movies. I really do. The
Okay.
Marvel, give me I have watched them with my kids, but
Okay. Well, listen,
I'm not a huge fan.
it's a big year for Marvel. You got Daredevil series coming back this month. You got the new Spider-Man movie in July. You have the Avengers in November. So it's a big year for Marvel movies for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to that because,
Yeah,
I'm always looking for good movies to watch. So,
absolutely, absolutely. Favorite American president and why?
oh, now you're getting me in trouble here. How do I
Uh-oh.
pick? How do I pick? Um, I have to say, thinking back, I'm going to go old school. Of course, I love President Trump. I think he's doing some amazing things
Yes.
and is a really bold leader. But I think growing up, one of my favorites, it really was Ronald Reagan. I mean,
Same.
he had so much personality, did so many great things. And he just was so inspirational. So I think I'm gonna stick with Reagan for this one.
All right. Well, last one, and again, sort of along the same lines. Least favorite American president.
Oh, I might say Wilson because he had a reputation for being not a heck of a nice guy and a little bit I think of a racist, really.
Okay, fair enough. I'll share one. I think for two different reasons. One is Barack Obama. I think a lot of the woke bullshit that we've been enduring for some years, Madam Chair. I think goes back to the mid 2000s, the late 2000s with his election. I think that you start normalizing a lot of this identity politics nonsense that unfortunately we still have to endure now. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party seems to have embraced a lot of it. And, he certainly doesn't have the political capital he once had, thank the Lord. But I think a lot of what we're living through now when it comes to identity politics, a lot of the woke nonsense, I think we can trace it back to Barack Obama. I think it's hard to argue that. And with all my progressive and leftist friends, especially from grad school, it's hard to argue when I bring up those facts to them. And my other one, again, and it may not sit well with you too much, but I can explain it. You know, 20 years later, you do enough reading, you do enough research. There are elements about George W. Bush and Dick Cheney that don't sit well with me today. And, you know, I look back and yeah, I voted for him twice and I campaigned and volunteered at the RNC at the Garden in New York City in 2004. 20 years later, Madam Chair, some things I'm learning and reading about that administration doesn't sit well with me.
Well, you
But
have,
I'm
now
at least
you have
honest
two
about it.
least favorites, though. I thought you were supposed to give a favorite and a least.
Well, no, least favorite. Yeah, I would say my favorite. I'm with you. I think I mentioned this during my speech again in Monroe, New Jersey, at the Middlesex County Republican Women's Dinner. I think the 40th president, Ronald Reagan, really. I mean, I'm talking about a guy. Yeah, definitely. I would say my favorite.
Yeah,
for sure.
Can I edit my answer?
Sure.
You know, because I was going way back, but from a personal perspective, my least favorite was Joe Biden. And when I think about the damage done to so many young people, children with the COVID lockdowns and everything that happened, I really think that he was probably the worst of the worst when you think about what was going on during that time in terms of our national security, the border, COVID. I mean, think about all of the horrible things that happened under him. I mean, it kind of like takes the cake, really. So I'm editing mine because I'm going more recent president, and I think most people will agree that he was probably the worst. Really.
Listen, I agree with you completely. And the reason that the upcoming No Kings March is such nonsense to me, and when I hear from progressives up here in Hudson County or throughout New Jersey that are marching and bitching and moaning about, oh my God, the erosion of democracy and our liberties, these are the same
people we lived through.
Again, Madam Chair, these are the same retards that were fine with mask mandates, draconian masking mandates. The fact that Joe Biden was fine with encouraging governors to shut down states. We saw it with Phil Murphy. Okay, we had servicemen and women, EMTs, firemen and women, police officers losing their jobs because of vaccine mandates and everything else. And you have the audacity to cry about, oh my God, what a dictatorship. Oh my God, no kings. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit by people that want to have this selective moral outrage, Madam Chair, about no kings when they were perfectly fine with Sleepy Joe and the auto pen ruining this country.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though? I've been doing a lot of research about the Revolutionary War. And, you know, when you think about how, you know, people in New Jersey are kind of willing to tolerate like that kind of oppression that we had, you know, during COVID and the high taxes and everything. If you go back to the Revolutionary War, you know, New Jersey was one of those places that there were a lot of people willing to tolerate like the British rule. There was a lot of, you know, you when you think about the Revolutionary War, you think about, oh, everybody was, you know, fighting for independence. That is not the case. There were a lot of people who were willing to tolerate the oppressive rule of the crown. And I kind of feel like fast forward to today, you know, it's almost shocking, but it's really not, because history tells you, the history repeats itself, that people are willing to tolerate that kind of oppression with like the high taxes and the mask mandates and the lockdown. You know, it just kind of made me draw a parallel to what was going on.
Again, Madam Chair, I just laugh. And again, it's when I would cover the No Kings marches up here in Hudson County, and I would, you know, go to these marches, I would take footage, I would talk about it on my show. And believe it or not, a lot of my friends, a lot of Democrat friends would call me or text me like, you know, you're so mean, you're so like ridiculous. And I'm like, well, first of all, I would sit there and I would watch these people marching. And first of all, let's be honest, folks, for a lot of these women out there, that's probably the most cardio they've done all year. Hint, hint, if you know what I'm saying. So a lot of these cat ladies, Madam Chair, all these feminists and all these woke, the nose ring militia types, it makes me laugh about what you're willing to be outraged about when you had 4 years of a draconian administration, and no problem with that, right? No problem with money going to governments like Ukraine, and you're bitching about gas prices about during, oh, listen, suck it up because we have to do it for Ukraine. Well, no offense, folks, gas still isn't as high as it was during the Biden years. But it's interesting how the left and progressives, Madam Chair, just have this selective moral outrage when it comes to this stuff.
Well, when you think about that, juxtaposition with the no kings, but yet okay for, Iranian women to be under tremendous oppression,
Yeah.
with the Ayatollah.
What happened was,
that's perfectly okay.
yeah, listen, what happened to believe all women or support all women, like biological women, women with uteruses? Let's not get it twisted, folks. But it's crazy, right? It's just, but Madam Chair, again, before I let you go, you've been such a great conversation tonight. You've been a wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on this show. And I believe, really, and I'm grateful for your belief in my brand of independent journalism. And again, best of luck to you. Congratulations on being elected the new chair. You're doing great work so far. Keep up the fight. It's worth doing. And I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Thank you. Hey, we have a lot of work to do. I need everybody working and trying to help out. It's been great talking to you. Thank you so much. And we just got to work hard and get some wins here together.
Any events coming up later this month, in April, May, for the rest of the spring and summer? Any big events coming up from the NJGOP?
We just came off that really big event. So we will be planning something for June, and we will have our leadership summit in September this year. It's usually in March, but it wasn't planned before I took over. So we're now going to have that in September. But if you go to njgop.org, there's a lot of Lake County and other events that are posted there in the coming days.
Folks, she is the distinguished chairwoman of the New Jersey Republican Party. The great Christine Hanlon joins us live this week. Madam Chair, thank you for your time. By the way, I know it's March, but may not talk to you again until late in the spring or summer. Happy Easter in advance to you. Happy Mother's Day in advance to you. Keep up the great work. And we'll talk to you again here on Jersey First TV.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Take care. Folks, good stuff there with the distinguished chair of the New Jersey Republican Party, the new chair, Christine Hanlon, here on the broadcast. And again, folks, I can't say enough. Like, comment, and share. Helps the show grow. It helps you show your support for fearless, independent journalism. Folks, don't be fooled with others trying to do the same thing I do, because they just can't. Support Jersey First TV and support Real Talk on all of your social media platforms. Folks, it's 6 o'clock exactly here on the East Coast. And guess what? It's time for final thoughts. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I say it all the time. There is no shortage of clowns here in New Jersey. There is no shortage of clowns in higher education, like Joe Amaditis from the Center of Communication Studies over there at Woke State in Montclair, New Jersey. The School of Communications, the Center for Communications, I think. Pretty useless journalists in New Jersey like Sleepy Allen Steinberg, Tom Moran, Chucky, Charles Style with North Jersey.com. Folks, who thought it was a good idea to put the Bergen Record and the content of NorthJersey.com on a paywall? Like, who's going to pay for that bullshit? I know I'm not. I know a few people with accounts, and I'll probably just borrow their username and password, but I wouldn't subscribe to that. Folks, who would pay to read, Matt Freeman on Political New Jersey? I mean, whenever this guy works, which who knows how often that is, who would pay for this bullshit? I can't imagine, right? Or other useless activists in New Jersey, whether it's Amy Torres from the New Jersey Alliance of Immigrant Justice, right? Or overpaid government employees like Maria Rodriguez over there at Woke State in Montclair, right? Or useless government officials, elected officials like Phil Cohen, the charisma vacuum Phil Cohen over there in Hoboken. Yes, folks, I know it's hard to make this collage there. I wasn't sure if I could fit his nose into the picture there. The nose itself could take up the whole collage, but I want to make sure I got that in there. Or other useless elected officials, like maybe Joe Quintero from Hoboken as well. Folks, the weather's getting warmer. Be careful. If you run into Joe Quintero during day drinking, which is quite often, or you invite him to a house party, lock that liquor cabinet, but Joe Quintero can probably raid that cabinet pretty quick. Or other useless elected officials like Ravi Bala and Katie Brennan, who think that writing legislation with funny acronyms somehow, I don't know, they think it gets them street cred with all the progressives and all the woke fools in their district, but it just reminds us that they're children. Or other useless activists like Hetty Rosenstein, right? Or Caleb Burrell or Lauren Albrecht. Other useless women in New Jersey like Jay Lassiter, right? But if I wanted to amend the collage behind me, I can add a new person, I think, and that's Isaac Jimenez, one of the advocates for the Democratic Socialists of Hudson County and in New Jersey. But folks, over the weekend, as we all know, tragically and unfortunately, Christ Hospital in the Jersey City Heights closed after 100 years of service to the community. And a shout out to, as you can see there behind me, to John Robert Hines, fellow member of the Pinnacle in Hudson County, fellow Rutgers alumnus, and also the editor of the Hudson County View for his reporting on this story. Now, certainly what was interesting, obviously, as you can see there were 2 arrested, including 1 council aide, as they were trying to enter the Heights Hospital during their, quote, die-in. And let me just put in perspective here, folks, why this is embarrassing. Why it's embarrassing when you have, little delicaditos like Isaac Jimenez, right? And others that somehow think it's a good idea to act like children. Now, again, being perfectly enabled by 2 members of the Jersey City Council. All right? We all know who they are. Affectionately, we know them as the local retards, Joe Brooks and Jake Efros. I don't know who looks more feminine from the 3 of them, but that's a story for another day. But let's sort of go into the, and I'll put some footage here, which I think is important. Now, 2 protesters were arrested, including 1 city council aide, after a dying demonstration in Jersey City opposing the closure of the Heights University Hospital. Now, the arrestees were Isaac Jimenez, as you can see there, a little delicadito, little mahomeno, right, of the North Jersey Democratic Socialists of America and the Hudson County DSAs, and Carissa Cunningham, right, a fellow DSA member and an aide to Ward B Councilman Joe Brooks. Quote, there was a warning given. I told him to stop at the door. She pushed through. Now, again, folks, just to be clear, it wasn't very difficult for her to push through. I mean, you could look at her. I mean, that's like 200-something pounds barreling through a door. So, Now, again, I commend her. Folks, let's be honest here. Shout out to Carissa Cunningham with that cardio she put in of trying to barge through the door. That's probably the most cardio that Carissa has engaged in all year. So shout out to her, and pretty embarrassing to be walking out in public in your pajamas. I mean, you are the aide to a city councilman. Like, look the part, dress the part. All right. I don't need to see your belly sticking out of your t-shirt, covered up by your pajama pants. I mean, again, look respectable. Okay. Look responsible. You know what I'm saying? But that's a lot to ask, folks, of Democratic socialists, because they're nothing more than children. Let's continue here. And what I thought was interesting, again, folks, wait until you hear the estrogen coming out of the voice of Isaac Jimenez. Wait until you hear the, don't touch me, or hands off of me. Like, you can hear the estrogen in Isaac Jimenez's voice, folks. There's nothing masculine about Isaac. There just isn't. There's nothing remotely masculine about Isaac Jimenez. Don't be fooled, folks. The guy's married to a girl. Don't be fooled. I'm not fooled. Neither should you. But let's check out Isaac Jimenez, all 102 pounds of him soaking wet, somehow thinking that resisting arrest is a good idea. And of course, as you can see there, you'll see Carissa, all 250 pounds of her, also acting like a complete retard, thinking that resisting arrest is a good idea.
I gotta get in there. Come on, man.
Like, again, folks, who thinks this is a good idea? By one of the most feminine men I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot, like Jay Lassiter and others. Like, who thinks it's a good idea for a guy weighing 102 pounds, okay, to resist arrest when Jersey police officers, again, they have to be there to maintain order and peace. You would think that these idiots would know how to conduct themselves. What else is new? Well, let's continue.
Isaac.
Folks, I got to tell you, Isaac is fortunate. If those are other cops in other municipalities, I mean, I would not feel sorry for him getting his ass kicked. There's no need for that, Isaac. You're a grown-ass man, bro. You're a grown-ass man. And being Cuban, like, I'm embarrassed that you're Cuban, bro. Like, you should have a little more respect for law and order. You should have a little more respect for someone in uniform that's just simply trying to do their job and keep the peace. But no, tú tienes que ser un come mierda, tú tienes que ser un niño, tú tienes que ser un imbécil that has to make it about him and hijack the event instead of making it about the unfortunate closure of the hospital.
Get your hands off. Watch it. Okay. Get your hands off. You good? Don't hurt him. Isaac, just stop it. You good? Get his back. You get your knee off his back. Get your fucking knee off his back. You get your fucking knee off his back.
And get your hands off me.
Folks, just listen to that. Take your hands off me. That, folks, can you hear the estrogen coming out of little Isaac here? Like, Dios mío. If anything says Mahomeno, like, you know, like, it's this. Like, this is laughable. Like, you have to laugh at this. The amount of estrogen coming out of this. Oh, my God. I can't really say what I'd like to see on the air, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, get your hands off me. Like, it's embarrassing.
Isaac, you good? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, here we go. All right, here's a good one here. Here's all 250 pounds of Carissa. Watch.
You cannot do this! Get your hands off her!
And that's pretty impressive. Like, even 3 police officers, and they are still struggling to pick up this behemoth. My God, like, Carissa, hit a treadmill, for God's sakes. You know? Maybe, I don't know, check out that Ozempic on, I don't know, over the counter, for God's sakes. It's embarrassing walking out with pajamas. You're a grown-ass woman. You're the aide to a councilman in Jersey City, and you walk out in pajamas and chancletas? Like, that's embarrassing. Like, come on. Have a little more pride in your presentation, honey. My goodness. Oh, God. I just saw, oh, geez, folks, did you see that? Oh, my God. It's like, crack of her ass. Oh, God. I'm traumatized here. Like, it's too early. Folks, it's Monday. I can't start drinking this early in the week here. Again, shout out to the Jersey police officers. Having to pick up esa gorda, Dios mío. I mean, folks, I haven't seen that many, folks, okay? I haven't seen that many rolls since I went to Chica's Bakery in Union City looking at the counter, okay? God. Hit a treadmill. Folks, like, can we get like a GoFundMe somewhere? Like, can we start a GoFundMe maybe to get some Ozempic here for Carissa? I mean, this is embarrassing here. Shame she doesn't hit the gym. That's what you should be screaming shame at. Shame that, you know, Jesus. Maybe instead of 5 meals, maybe have 2. I mean, if it was like 2020, maybe like Carissa could be like one of those Victoria's Secret models when they were still woke. Maybe. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is embarrassing. Like, I mean, folks, can we put like parental advisory warnings on this? I mean, really, like this hurts my eyes here.
Relax, it's okay. Don't get yourself out of breath.
Folks,
Just relax, calm down.
calm down, relax. You're not going to be eating food tonight. You'll be spending the night in jail. So, breathe. Breathe. I know. You won't be on your smartphone that night ordering on Uber Eats. I know. Folks, I would have loved to see her in the cafeteria. Like, what type of orange jumpsuit? Like, do they even have her size in Kearney at the county jail?
Don't get yourself. Deep breath. He's right there.
Deep breaths, yeah. Deep breaths when she should hit a treadmill. Jesus.
Deep breath. Thank you.
Excuse me, back
Look at Joel Brooks, of course. Folks, this is the level of incompetence that you are just seeing 6 weeks in. And it's people like Joel Brooks and Jake Efros that wanted somehow to raise the municipal budget to hire more aides. What? So fat tubs of goo like Carissa Cunningham could just act like an idiot? And possibly like put Jersey police officers in a precarious position? Is this what you want to put money into, Joel and Jake?
back up.
I'm riding with them. Are they going to the North Precinct?
Kyle. Whose car is this?
Councilman Brooks, go. Let Councilman Brooks go. Please. Let Councilman Brooks go. Please, this is a councilman.
I know. I can't.
Yeah, he's a councilman. Believe it or not, this retard, trust me, is a councilman. I mean, folks, it's, oh my God. Yeah, I know. It's a lot to get used to. I know. It takes a little registering, these two retards here. But
The prisoner has to go in a separate car. Sorry, that's the way it works.
yeah, the person has to go in a separate car because she's the only one that can fit in a separate car. I'm sure, Isaac was probably transported in a different car. There's no way you can fit both of them in there. I mean, there's human rights violations here. Not enough oxygen, not enough space in the car. I mean, come on.
Going to North Precinct?
Folks, again, it's embarrassing. And you would think, again, right? You would think that someone like Isaac Jimenez, like any other progressive in DSA that I know that loves to make it about them. And mind you, folks, there are some respectable progressives, like Jersey City Mayor James Solomon, who's trying his hardest to navigate a lot of very dangerous waters right now. A city budget that he was left with because of the incompetence of Stephen Fulop. Okay. Spending that has to be reined in the city of Jersey City. The last thing that Mayor Solomon needs is two children like Jake Efros and Joel Brooks with the other idiots there acting like children. So much so that I made sure to text the mayor that last night. Shout out to you. You've demonstrated great leadership in just a few short weeks about the budget, about everything else, about what's going on in your city, about taking a stand and trying to save Christ Hospital. So again, I commend the mayor. But mayor, do me a favor. Take people like Joel Brooks and Jacob, sit their retarded asses down and just tell them, you can't act like kids. You represent this city. You represent this administration. Be adults. Start acting like adults. Start dressing like adults. And tell that to your staff as well. I don't envy James Solomon, folks. He's got a tough job ahead of him. But I'm fair on this program. And I want James Solomon to succeed. I want James Solomon to dig Jersey City out of the fiscal rut that Stephen Fulop left Jersey City in after 12 shitty years. Okay? I'm intellectually honest, folks. I can't speak for other journalists in New Jersey, but I'm intellectually honest on this show. Okay? He's got a lot of work on his hands. And the last thing that James Solomon needs is retards like Isaac Jimenez and others somehow representing progressives. It's a shitty job they're doing, and it's a shitty presentation. More so when you have two DSA members on the city council. Mayor Solomon, sit these two retards down and tell them, you know what? Do a better job. Okay? And never mind the optic of chalk outlines on the grounds of what was known as Christ Hospital. Folks, you know how many Jersey residents have had to look at chalk outlines in their neighborhoods And somehow these idiots like Isaac Jimenez think it's a good idea to engage in this type of buffoonery. Folks, this is why you can't take Isaac Jimenez seriously. Now, I don't know if he's still in jail in Jersey City or if he's been transported to the county. I hope he rots in jail, because it's lessons like this that are needed to teach come mierdas like Isaac Jimenez the harsh lesson. You have to know how to behave yourself. You're a grown-ass adult. Start acting like it. It's pretty embarrassing, folks. Okay? But let's go from one come mierda to another come mierda, and of course, David Cruz. And I'm sure he was wallowing in, despair, seeing Team Puerto Rico get bounced from the World Baseball Classic. What else is new? Sorry-ass team. All right? I'm sure he's eating his sorrows away watching Puerto Rico get eliminated again. But of course, what does he do? He has to give and I get it. He's an elected official. He's a councilman. But instead of grilling the councilman and at least maybe push him back on the bullshit narratives, what does he do? He coddles Councilman Jake Efros like he coddles every progressive and every left-wing activist that goes on his shitty programs. When he goes on NJ Spotlight News, and of course, a shitty program that he has now.
What can you tell us about what happened today? There were 2 arrests. What happened all involving that?
So community members planned a die-in to protest the closure of the hospital. And I believe community members wanted to escalate from that die-in.
Folks, who thinks that's a good idea to have chalk outlines? Folks, especially someone like David Cruz, who lives in a shitty part of Jersey City, the South Side. Don't you think residents have enough optics or visuals of chalk outlines on city streets because of the ongoing violence that happens in the South Side of Jersey City? Who thinks it's a good idea to do that? Instead of pushing back on that, again, for someone like David Cruz that lives in a shithole in that southern part of Jersey City, you would think he would be like, hey, listen, Jake, you're a grown-ass man. That's not a good look. But again, that will require Uncle Dave, prepárate, to have what's known as, prepárate, integrity. We know he doesn't have any, which is why he continues to coddle clowns like Jake Efros. Let's continue.
And we're trying to find a way to, just go and actually demonstrate within the hospital. And it looks like JCPD took 2 people, 2 of the demonstrators during that part. And, I won't comment too much on the nature of those arrests, but definitely concerned.
What are you not going to comment, Jake? I mean, they're acting like idiots. They're resisting arrest. Like, Isaac has no business breaking into a facility like that. Now, again, Carissa, I mean, just breathing, she's going to break into anywhere. So that's probably a different dynamic. You have one guy who weighs 102 pounds. You have another woman who weighs 302 pounds. So it's a vastly different dynamics here. But the premise remains the same. This is unacceptable. This is not good behavior, Jake. Call it out.
About what it appears as. So we're going to be following up on that. I'm super glad that they're out and they're okay. The 2 demonstrators who were taken.
Yeah, make sure you get them out, because if Carissa misses a meal, I mean, she may have a panic attack.
But yeah, I mean, the big story here is that the community is totally outraged that Christ Hospital is closed now. And
in fairness, as she's being carried out and then she walks out again, shout out to Carissa. I mean, that's at least you're getting some cardio in this year. I mean, thank goodness.
Today was the day, right?
Today's the day.
The obviously a judge ruled against.
Jesus, pull up her pants. Who needs to look at that? Like, that's just nasty. My God, pull up the pants.
The city today, the city was looking for an injunction, right, to stop the closing. So now the hospital is closed for people who live in other parts of the city, downtown or wherever, where they have a hospital nearby. What is the difference now for someone who lives Charles Street in the Heights or Thorne Street in the Heights?
We don't have a community hospital. And, if you're on Charles or Thorne up here in Ward D, or if you are on Wayne downtown, we all need a certain number of hospital beds to meet the population that we have in Jersey City.
Yeah, Jake. And guess what? Instead of sitting there for hours at a council meeting pontificating about bike lanes and all that bullshit. You should have been avidly, not filibustering, but talking with your fellow council members about, hey, what can be done to save Christ Hospital? Now, I get it. This might be out of your hands, might be out of the mayor's hands. But folks, optics matter. Playing politics is something that DSA members excel at. Being children, theatrics. But instead of going on with clowns like David Cruz, what you should have been doing for weeks on your social media, okay? And I think you got some other fat retard there working either for Joe Brooks or yourself, right? Some Asian guy there, I don't know, whatever his name is. Maybe you should be cutting videos on that. Maybe you should be cutting videos on what you're looking to do and solicit help from maybe Trenton. But no, you're fixated on bike lanes and that bullshit.
City Medical Center's response times are going to go down, and the wait room times are going to go up because we don't have a hospital alternative here in the Heights. We have...
And folks, don't get it twisted. This was coming down the road for quite some time. So, you know, for as much as, and I'm pretty sure he has a nice folder about things to cook and roast Stephen Fulop on. Maybe add one more thing, Mayor Solomon. You know, cook Stephen Fulop on, like, he must have known this for some time. This isn't just recent, folks. Okay? And I know that when he was too busy running for governor or whatever other bullshit, taking money from developers, whatever, guess what? This could have been avoidable. And now, unfortunately, it falls square on the shoulders of the new administration and some of these incompetent people serving as council people in Jersey City. It's a bad deal for Jersey City residents, folks. We have clowns like this representing you.
At this point.
And again, by the way, like with his first real job, just like Joe Brooks, it's hard, folks, when these are adults with real jobs for the first time in their adult lives and they're learning on the go. Not a good look for Jersey residents because they're the ones that suffer, not them.
About 50% of the beds that we ought to as a city of 300,000 people. It's really not acceptable. So for us up here in the Heights, it is especially painful, of course. I mean, we have a lot of neighbors who walked by community members' encampment that they set up outside the hospital over the past couple of days and just shared all of these stories about their lives being saved at Christ Hospital. One neighbor told me about another hospital saying that they recommended an abortion at 7 months when she wanted to keep her child, and Christ was able to save her child and she was able to give birth. Like, really powerful testimony from neighbors about what this hospital means to our community. So the data is there that we desperately need this in terms of just the number of hospital beds, and then, you know, just the emotional weight of losing this community hospital is really heavy.
It's a shame that this hospital is being closed. We only have 2 hospitals in Jersey City. That's Jersey City Medical Center, and that's this hospital. The other hospitals in Bayonne, another one in Hoboken. It's a shame that the community got to go so far to receive health care. And we doing this for what? For what? For profit? For the millionaires that have great buildings and great views, and people here who work in the community can't go to their own hospital that's near to them? We are important. It's a shame that our elderly can't go to the hospital. It's a shame that someone get a heart attack can't go to the hospital. This hospital must stay open. It must stay open.
The broader story here, which is important for us to all focus on, is that you have a multi-billion dollar company that thinks that its profits are more important than the lives of the people of our city and of this region. And that is the type of corporate greed that has to end in our state. It's the type of corporate greed that has to end in our city. And you have real, genuine community members here who are fighting to try.
All right, damn. Like, who's that little blonde over there? All right. Let's have her more. Let's have her on the street more there with more live reporting there. I mean, look at that little hottie there. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's get her back. Let's get her with more man on the street interviews there.
To ensure that this
News 12. All right.
While they've been here
I'll be watching News 12 a little more often. I get to see that little hottie. Coño.
Today, community member came to access the emergency room because they can access the healthcare that they need.
What do you make of the plan to open these condos to build another state-of-the-art hospital?
Yeah. What we've always said is we are open to have conversations with HRH, with anyone, to increase healthcare access in the Heights. But those conversations.
And listen, nice job there by the mayor. And eventually, if the mayor and the city council have to implement eminent domain to save that space there, then so be it. I mean, do what you can to save this hospital. But again, folks, this was avoidable for years. There's another blemish there on Seam Full of Record. Okay, don't get it twisted. Okay, and again, Mayor Solomon's in a precarious position here. He's going to have to try to find a solution with very, very little options available to him, and we'll find out. So again, I applaud him for being out there, but folks, let's be honest. When you have council members more concerned with bike lanes and theatrics and social media, not really representing the constituents, I think, as well as they should be. Right? And that's something I think I would argue that, let's be fair. Okay, so whether it's, again, whether it's David Cruz, whether it's Isaac Jimenez, folks, okay, whether it's Carissa Cunningham, right? I think that's her name. Let's just make sure I don't want to confuse her because, Carissa Cunningham is a little hottie that plays with the Indiana Fever. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is Carissa Cunningham. Okay. But when I think about these ridiculous arrests over the weekend, when I think about these ridiculous theatrics and antics from Isaac Jimenez, from Carissa Cunningham, from Joel Brooks, okay, from Jake Efros. Folks, it's very simple. There's no other way to describe what we're seeing in real time, and yes, it's very evident.
No. You're still a loser.
Clown
Still a loser.
show.
You're a Mets
Say it
fan.
with me, Mike. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. It's a clown show.
I mean, folks, it just is. It just is. Imagine watching Isaac Jimenez, Carissa Cunningham, right? And the rest of these children over the weekend. When it should be about the cause, no, it's about themselves. That's why you can't take them seriously. Yeah, folks, again, in a time when we should be holding people accountable, what we're seeing is Mickey Mouse journalists coddling activists and theatrics. Folks, that's not good journalism. That's shitty journalism. But then again, when I think about shitty journalism, yeah, I think of David Cruz. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment tonight, and I do want to acknowledge, it was breaking earlier this afternoon. Carlos Medina, the president and CEO of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, has decided to step down today to address more time with his family, focus on his health. Okay. And I applaud Carlos Medina for his dedication to the business community in New Jersey. For over 10 years, Carlos Medina has been that leader, unifying tens of thousands of businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses here in New Jersey. Okay? Hispanic-owned businesses that have called New Jersey home, that have contributed to the economy of this great state. I've been privileged to get to know Carlos. I've been privileged to interview Carlos Medina on this program multiple times. And we haven't always agreed over the years, but let me tell you, Carlos Medina has been a gentleman. He's been a distinguished gentleman. He's been a good human, a good son, a good father, a good husband, and a great leader. That's the best way to summarize Carlos Medina. I wish him well and the best of luck in his future endeavors and what he's going to be doing. I know he's going to be addressing other possible ventures, and I applaud him. He has set the bar very high, folks, in New Jersey, in the business community. Whether it's the great winter galas every December, whether it's the great mixers during the spring and summer. Folks, the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was on the brink of bankruptcy well over 10 years ago. And between him and Chairman Luis de la Hoz, they have done wonders with uplifting the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Carlos, I salute you. Congratulations on an exceptional body of work. You've set the standard, my friend. I wish you the best of luck in whatever you're going to be pursuing now. But you certainly left the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce better than when you found it. When we think of leadership, when we think of courage, when we think of integrity and values, folks, you know what I think of? I think of Carlos Medina. Not just a friend of this show, but a friend to me, a great Cuban, a great American, a great businessman, but folks, just more than anything else, a great human. I'm sad to see him go, but he certainly left the chamber in a much better place than when he found it. He has certainly built a great institution there, a great executive board. Shout out to all the great men and women of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Carlos, I wish you luck, my man. Love you. You always have a fan on this show here. And I've always appreciated you being a fan of my media brand. Goes a long way, man. Thank you for your belief in Real Talk and Fernando Uribe Media. And more importantly, just for your belief in Fernando Uribe. I'm grateful to you. I wish you the best of luck and keep chugging along, brother. You're doing great things. And that's not going to stop anytime soon. On behalf of everybody here at Jersey First TV, we salute Carlos Medina, a great business leader and a great human here in New Jersey. And that's my special comment. Folks, a shout out to close out the show tonight. Again, I don't know if you saw it here in North Hudson. A great caravan for a free Cuba. This really just 24 hours ago. I had the chance to be there in attendance to salute so many great Cuban Americans. Okay? So many great Cuban Americans that, let's be honest, were there in attendance. Young, old, and in the middle. Let me tell you, great people, whether it was family members, colleagues, friends, you name it, folks. Even if you weren't Cuban, you were out there riding your car in that caravan that started at 89th Street in North Hudson, in North Bergen, and went all the way down into Guttenberg, into West New York, and into Union City, folks. For well over an hour, Cuban Americans and all types of Americans were showing their support once again for a free Cuba. And hopefully we get to see that in our lifetime. Great stuff yesterday. I mean, folks, it was lively. By the way, folks, some hotties yesterday in the caravan, boy, I'll tell you. A little chilly yesterday, but it's worth it. Check out some of these hotties.
Una copia del video, ¿eh?
Oh, shit, what's up? How are you? What's going on? All right. I love the car. I love the flags. Let's go. Let's go. On there. Yeah, I love that flag. There's that flag. There you go. There you go, that flag right there. There you go. There you go, baby. Woo! There you go. Very nice. Folks, a great afternoon yesterday for well over an hour. Cuban Americans, everybody out there with their flag showing solidarity. And it'd be great to see a free Cuba as soon as possible. So again, shout out to everybody out yesterday along Bergen Line Avenue in Northern Hudson County, supporting a free Cuba. Hopefully we're seeing that in real time. Hopefully we can see that as a reality in 2026. That's my shout out there to everybody in Hudson County who helped make yesterday's caravan a tremendous success. Folks, that's our show for this week. Once again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like the program on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. And don't forget, if you check out podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, and you can check out all our episodes of Real Talk and take it with you on your smartphone, tablet, or anywhere that you go, whether you're doing errands, walking your dog, whatever it is you're doing, folks, you're checking out Real Talk. I know you are. Even the haters are doing it. Trust me, you'll never be disappointed. Of course, I'm always leading the way here, front and center, and proud to represent Jersey First TV, educating and advocating for the residents of the great state of New Jersey. Folks, we're doing it every Monday night. Of course, check your local listings here for start times. And again, it's my privilege to come to you every Monday night again, help the show grow. Like, comment, and share, and show your support for fearless, independent media. Not like some of that little Mickey Mouse journalism we see in New Jersey. No, folks, the leader in fearless, independent media is right here. Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Folks, before I call it a night, I'm a big pro wrestling fan. It is March the 16th. Happy 316 Day to all us fans here that grew up loving Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the reason a lot of my persona and I won't call it a gimmick, but my presentation is I owe it all to Stone Cold Steve Austin for not caring, speaking your mind, and quite frankly, having a filter. I can thank one of the greatest of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin, on today, the 16th of March. Every March 16th, folks, it's 316 Day. So to all my fellow pro wrestling fans, happy 316 Day. And once again, folks, that's our show for this week here. Once again, I want to thank the distinguished chair of the New Jersey Republican Party, Christine Hanlon, for a wonderful conversation breaking down election 2026. That and much more, folks. Again, if you haven't done so already, if you just joined us, check out the replays and share them on all of your social media platforms. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy March Madness. Fill out your brackets. Hopefully you can win some money. And once again, folks, please party responsibly. Look after your elderly neighbors. Please drive safely, folks, during the mornings and afternoons, especially during school crosswalks. Let's make sure our kids get to school safely and get home safely. So once again, we appreciate you tuning in here. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.